ladies and gentlemen, attendees and participants, and welcome to the July 12th, 2022 meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Una Johnson,
Brett Feldman,
Dustin Pastor,
Aaron Murphy.
Share Powers.
Also in attendance this evening from legal, we have Simone Savino. From development coordination, we have Jane Madu. From natural resources, we have Stephen Eister. From transportation here today? Oh, Jonathan Scott, hiding in the corner there. There are some procedural rules you need to follow. When your case number and petitioner's name is called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, your address, and if you have been sworn. Again, please state your name, your address, and if you have been sworn. The petitioner and their agent will then have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons and participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will have an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods as stated will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not been previously submitted as part of your petition and you intend to present at this hearing for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is presented and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. The variance granted by the board will be only for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms and conditions stated in the approval by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of decision. If the case is continued, it will be continued to either next month's VRB board agenda or the next available position on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the variance review board's decision reviewed by the city council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 14 days of the written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until after the 14 days review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the June meeting?
I'd like to move to approve the meeting minutes from the June meeting.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from June, say aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting minutes are approved. At this time, I will ask legal staff to confirm any ex parte communications and conflicts.
Good evening, Simone Savino on behalf of legal. I had asked prior to the meeting to start if anyone had any conflicts. Does anyone have any agenda items before you tonight? Seeing none, I don't believe I have to hand out the Form 8B, but if one does arise, just let me know.
Great. Before we move into the staff, if there's any changes to the agenda, I will just announce that today is one of our board members' last meetings, Dustin Pastor. Just want to say thank you for your service to the city and to the board. We appreciate it. I think we'll give you at least a little bit of an applause.
Thanks, Brett. It's been fun 6 years.
Terrific. At this time, I would ask, is there any changes to the agenda from staff?
Jane Madden, there is one addition to the previously sent out agenda, VRB 2261. It was continued from the June VRB. It was left up the initial agenda, but it is to be heard today.
Okay.
And I would like to request that VRB 2257 and VRB 2273 be heard at the same time as they are regarding the same property with just different parcels.
Okay. What about 2270? I see on the agenda that there is a request for a continuance. Did you want to address that now?
Correct. So VRB 2270 that is addressed at 3122 West San Jose Street is requesting to be continued to September 13th VRB, and that's because they have a formal decision process that is pending, and so they want to wait for that determination before proceeding with their variance request.
Okay, then, do we have a motion to continue VRB 2270 and listing the location in that motion?
I motion that VRB 22-70, located at 3122 West San Jose, be continued to the September 13th, 2022 meeting.
Terrific. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of continuing VRB 2270 to the September 13th, 2022 meeting, say aye. Any opposed? All right, you got your continuance.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get into the matters for this VRB hearing, I would just like to, on behalf of staff, appreciate Dustin for 6 years before the board. I know that this is not a paid position. It's strictly on volunteer basis. And like Brett was saying earlier, that we have board members who just stop showing up. And it's been really great having you on the board, having you committed to the work that the VRB does and doing it so excellently all these years. We do appreciate you, and you'll be missed, and hopefully we'll see you around. So thank you very much. We
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right, we have 7 cases that will be heard before the board tonight, and I would get right into it.
Did you want to swear them in first?
Oh, yeah. Lisa?
This time I would ask staff if you would please conduct the swearing in. Members of the audience, if you plan to speak tonight, if there is a chance you're going to speak tonight, if there is a possibility that you might have to say something in testimony tonight, please stand and please be sworn so that we don't have to do it again later.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Terrific.
All right, so the first 2 cases will be heard in tandem. That's VRB 2257, addressed at 3622 Causeway Boulevard. It is zoned industrial general, and the request is to reduce the tree retention requirement from 50% to 0 and to remove 2 grant trees, and this is for the purpose of constructing new warehouses. The code section in reference is section 27-284. .3.1 for the minimum retention requirement, and also section 27-284.2.5 that has a requirement for the removal of a grand tree. Both of this property is, there are several lots. It's a 40-acre property in the Central Tampa Planning District, and it's been reviewed by development staff. Natural Resources found it inconsistent with technical code. However, they have been in communication with the applicant, and I believe that as at this morning, they had come to a resolution based on the evidence and documents provided. Right of Way reviewed it and had a comment for a survey to be uploaded. They did upload, applicant provided that information. Transportation had no comments. Stormwater had a comment that they comply with City of Tampa stormwater technical standards at the time of permitting, and to update the plans to reflect the current flood zone elevations. We have received no letters of objection or support for this variance request. This is the proposal to warehouses on the lots that have been put forward in this request. And this is a tree survey showing the trees and the wetland area. They have also provided 2 alternative site plans showing reconfiguration for the parking as to how to potentially save the 2 trees in this request. This is the second site plan, alternative site plan that the applicant has provided. And I'll move forward to VRB 2273, address at 4,000 Causeway Boulevard. Zoning is IG Industrial General. And the variance request on this is to reduce that tree retention requirement from 50% to 0% and to remove 5 grand trees. Again, the request is the same for the construction of a warehouse. The code requirements remain section 27-284.3.1 for the minimum retention requirement, and then section 27-284.2.5 for the removal of a grand tree. That is the aerial showing the subject property. This is an additional 18 acres to the original 40 acres. And it's also been reviewed by development staff, and they have provided their comments or their memos as uploaded in the staff reports. And this is a site plan for that third warehouse with the parking provided. And they have provided 2 alternative site plans showing alternative configurations for the parking to save some of those trees. Pictures of the site were provided by the applicant showing the existing conditions. In the determination of this variance request before the board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for approving or denying a variance request, and also section 27-284.2.5, the criteria required for the removal of a grand tree. If you have any questions, I will be available on hand, and Stephen Eister will be available to answer any questions regarding natural resources.
There we go. All right, applicant, come on up. You know the drill. State your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, please.
Thank you, board members. Ricky Pederica, 308 East 7th Avenue with Dark Moss. I have been sworn. I have with me from Otero Engineering, 2 civil engineers on the project, Nick Baliga and Charlie Otero. Pardon me a moment. I'm going to provide some backup. The first packet relates to VRB 2257. The second is the 2273. They're so similar in criteria that we're going to go through them together, but they are different in fact on the numbers and some of the considerations that I just want to not overwhelm you with information there. So if you could introduce.
Yeah, you said Nick Baliga, 13902 Northdale Mabry, Tampa, Florida. Since we're combining them, I'll start with Causeway West. As staff mentioned, the proposed project is comprised of 2 warehouses along with associated infrastructure and parking. The warehouses will serve the growing e-commerce demand that has grown exponentially since 2020 as a direct result of the global pandemic. Additionally, the site is uniquely benefited by being directly across the street from the Tampa Port Authority. We'll make use of large cargo ships to dock to distribute goods. Then the second project that we'll be presenting is the Feeding Tampa Bay project. The Feeding Tampa Bay is a nonprofit organization under the larger Feeding America. They provide food to millions of food insecure individuals across the Tampa Bay annually. The project consists of a building and associated parking and infrastructure. This building has been sized appropriately to serve the service area of the food insecure families in the Tampa Bay area.
Thank you. Regarding the variance criteria, let's go back in time a little bit. This is an aerial from 1968. The subject property is roughly this area. It was a drive-in movie theater. Cool. Looking out on the water, McKay Bay, a neat thing. And then a pasture with some probably dotted palms. And it hasn't really changed this condition since, from 68 to now. This is a graphic of a contiguous zoning map of IG, Industrial General, around McKay Bay. This is Palmetto Beach neighborhood. There's a CSX storage lot, the McKay Bay Energy Recycling Facility, and this is our property here. This is the boundary. I just showing this to show kind of just a visual nature of what IG is developed as adjacent to the port, which is industrial heavy, which is where it's not a almost completely imperviously developed lot, it's the McKay Bay Park, but or wetlands. Other than that, it's a very intense, not the most intense, that's probably more in the port, but a very intensely developed urban form in this zoning district. For the criteria, this site was developed, it has been vacant since 2006, and some portions haven't been developed since 1950. It's mainly mowed turf, scattered cabbage palms, and Brazilian pepper clumps. Typical development, as I've been showing, is not a pattern of tree preservation, but of open storage with high impervious cover. Required landscape buffering, required vehicle use area landscaping. And the property to the east and west have virtually no trees existing. The existing site consists of thick bands of invasive pepper. This is an aerial photograph. Maybe you can see some faint dots. Those are the grand trees. Up here in this kind of very consistent pattern are mangroves, and around here are some patches of oaks. The rest of this is Brazilian pepper and white lead trees, which is a Category 1 invasive as well, and cabbage palms, which is the prevailing condition on the site, on both sites. This is an example of kind of what it looks like when you're out there looking at pepper or Category 1 invasive, Category 1 invasive, the mowed pasture lands with Brazilian pepper, couple scattered sable palms, and then ruderal forests in the oaks where they're there of some invasive ground cover, an unmanaged forest above. So this isn't a high-quality urban forest on either site. The site is unique in that McKay Bay is adjacent to the port, and the port is one of the only two functioning ports in Tampa Bay proper, including Port Manatee. This is the only undeveloped IG property adjacent to the port, currently, directly adjacent. And the closest residential use, depending on which property you consider, is 800 feet away. The comprehensive plan acknowledges the port as being an economic engine and an asset to the city of Tampa. And locating uses of this intensity in close proximity and adjacent, obviously is envisioned with the zoning, but is supported by the comprehensive plan. And in terms of substantial justice, the development of this site as intended will result in a net reduction of invasive species cover adjacent to environmentally sensitive areas from the existing condition. So all those criteria only speak to the retention request from 50% to 0. The number we're requesting is probably not going to be 0, probably closer to 4% or 3% or 5%, but it won't be anywhere near 50 due to the nature of the sites, of the arrangement of the trees on the plan on either site. So we requested 0 as just a simple number to make it not something that we're debating. But I also have to use the reasonable reconfiguration criteria for the grand trees. There's 2 on the Causeway property, 5 on the Feeding Tampa Bay. Those 2 grand trees are located here and here on the site. And they are in your packet. Just for understanding, tree 50 is this tree here, 350, I apologize. And tree 701 is this tree here. Just to visually interpret this site plan at a glance for a VRB, green dots are the condition of the tree, its health and structure combined, and that means good. And all these green dots are mostly sable palms. White or no color is a tree in fair condition, and in this case, these oaks up here with a brown dot are in poor condition. So there's nothing particularly wrong with these trees as they stand in an open field, but relative to the site plan proposed, they create an unreasonable impact to the loading docks associated with this warehouse and the parking area. Mr. Baliga will speak to the grading associated with both of these sites relative to these trees.
FEMA's maps have recently been updated to increase the flood stage from 10 to 12 in this area, which makes our minimum finished floor elevation at 13. The existing grade is, it's different out there, but it varies from 3 to 5. So it's approximately 8 feet of fill that's being placed under these buildings, and which is thus result in the site to bring in a bunch of fill.
Pardon me a moment, while adjusting for this combined procedure. This is the Feeding Tampa Bay site. Access is here, warehouse is this area, loading docks and parking on this side, and the multi-use parking on this side. The grand trees are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's a hazardous grand tree down here. And relatively the same criteria applies. We're dealing with the same fill issues. We're dealing with horizontal clearance for truck traffic, interfacing with several of these trees, and just trees falling in the building areas. We can't address any of these grand trees through a design exception. The site isn't really set by setbacks. It's set by these vehicle use area dimensions. So we can't shift the building out of the way. We can't change the height of a warehouse with loading docks in such a way that would accommodate these trees. We have to provide notches, and staff showed the reasonable criteria. I'll try not to pull those out too, but we impact the floor plan or the site plan in such a way that if we accommodate trees in the parking, they're still going to be in tree wells, which will be difficult to keep them alive in because of a change in hydrology, or we notch out sections of the building and still have a tree well. There's no utilities associated with these trees, so that one criteria wasn't applied. And the vehicle use area, if set at the minimum 20 foot of typical for a grand tree per reasonable reconfiguration, we would still be encroaching on the canopy that's in a hole, potentially up to 8 feet, on all the trees in the VUA. So there's just a combined sense of government criteria or regulatory criteria, a better way to put it, with floodplain issues and with circulation issues relative to this access point with DOT, which can't move, that box us in on how this site can be redesigned. We're already proposing an encroachment within the wetland, which I'll let Mr. Baliga speak to, that is working its way through EPC, SwiftMud, and Army Corps of Engineers approval. You can speak to the justification on the wetland impacts.
So the building needs to be of such a size, and it was reduced in order to reduce the impacts to the wetland. The stormwater pond was initially in the wetland and then reduced to only 0.3 acres. And we also, instead of treating it through wet detention, we also added filtration to kind of limit our impacts. And they're needed due to the size of the building.
I'll just quickly give you an impression of this site from a photograph standpoint. mowed pasture grass, nice oaks in places, but surrounded by pepper all over. This is an example of kind of just scattered old dumping grounds in some spots, forest trees. This is another surface water, not a wetland, surrounded by invasive species. While doing the inventory, this was some of the stuff we had to crawl through, which, when we had to get a tree in the pepper. So it's though adjacent to natural areas, McKay Bay, it isn't a natural site. It was developed partially in the 60s, sat vacant, only managed through mowing, and it's now grown up with sable palms and oaks, which have found some way where they haven't been mowed, but mostly pepper and white lead tree. And so considering all these overlapping invasive species consideration, scale of the development relative to the needs identified by the economic analysis, and the grade elevation, we respectfully request your consideration for both sites, reducing the retention, and then the grand tree removal. All right, welcome any questions.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation this evening?
Yes.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this application,
If it comes.
or these applications, I should say? Seeing none, I will open it for board questions for the applicant or staff or anyone else.
I have a question. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to understand part of the shoreline that is remaining intact and which shoreline is now a seawall. Is it just the little hook? Is that something that's being retained?
Is this a better, this is a better site to speak about.
Well, the one you have up is good. So are you talking about this hook right here?
No, the shoreline area.
Oh, none of this is, let's say, no development occurs north of the pen.
So that sand line, you can kind of see where the pen is. It separates
see.
where the mangroves are, and we're proposing no impacts to mangroves.
And so this dashed line on the plans, that's your wetland setback, or?
Yes, okay, so there is, this one? Is this the plan we're looking at?
Yes, they both have something similar.
Yes, okay, so this was I guess this is the wetland line here?
Correct.
And so the impact is there. There's no wetland setback showing, that's just the wetland line.
I see. Okay.
So there will be a wall at this location, yeah, here, and it'll be a,
A retaining wall.
yeah.
And we'll meet the setback requirements everywhere else. You can see where the pond is, and to the north here, we meet the setback requirements, just not where the wetland is. And the wetland consists of only Brazilian peppers.
And then this line of that wall, I guess, is it kind of like a seawall, I guess? Because it's kind of protecting you from flooding? And then
No,
does it go all the
so
way across to
The
the other?
mean high water of the McKay Bay is much north of the site.
Uh-huh.
And there's no wetland, there's no it's above the mean high water, so it's not gonna see any wave impacts, so it'll just be a retaining wall.
And does it go all the way across to the other site? Like if that line, it just kind of goes all the way?
No, so the wall here is just where my hands are and where the stormwater pond is, and then it stops right here, so it'll just be graded, tie down to the setback line. And then on the eastern property, you'll have the wall will pick back up. And, yep, so the eastern
Right.
property will have a wall along its northern perimeter. And that's to reduce any further impacts.
And secondary impacts, which are impacts to the setback, have already been included and mitigated as part of the swift mud mitigation for the impact.
Thank you.
Question for Mr. Eister? So if you would, I understand from the initial presentation that there's been some coordination with your office, that there was an initial technical objection, and it appears that those issues have been resolved. Can you just give us a quick summary on those
Yeah.
issues?
So some of the issues, as you can see, are Stephen Eister, Natural Resources. Some of the issues you guys can see in the initial memo was before we got the full tree survey and before the grand tree issue really became a issue. Initially, these weren't noted for that. So kind of the issue, one was parking. That was on the Feeding Tampa Bay side. That was addressed. The engineer miscalculated with the wrong use, I believe. And then with the tree retention, like they were mentioning, with the 4 foot, and I think some spots on the map even show 9 feet of fill. And then you add a semi going through there, which needs about 14 feet of clearance. You're piling dirt on the roots, and then you're trimming the canopies up higher. So effectively, you're gonna remove the trees anyways over time. Or the trucks are gonna rip the limbs off, as you see a lot of times in these warehouse type settings.
And what kind of mitigation is being required if this variance is approved?
So full mitigation will be required. I believe Ricky has a tree table. And they will have to mitigate grand trees first on site, and then the additional mitigation for vehicle use areas, parking lot islands and things like that will come in after. But they will have full mitigation. There's no exemption for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anyone else? All right, seeing none, you have some time for rebuttal. Anything you want to present?
I'll just touch on that last point of mitigation. As calculated, we anticipate there being approximately 200 oaks required on the Feeding Tampa Bay site. All those grand trees add up, even because they are basically in a field left alone, they aren't too bad. And this isn't a request relative to their condition, it's a request relative to their vertical position, let's say, and adjacency to the port. So there'll be a total of almost 300 trees required on this site, between oaks and palms. And on the Causeway West site, there will be a total of approximately 200 trees required. We've completed a landscape plan for this Causeway West site, and we do not meet that mitigation requirement, so there'll have to be a fee payment for the remainder by maintaining tree spacing and root development spacing that would accommodate trees in the future, as opposed to stuffing little islands with big trees. On the other site, we have more opportunity to replant in pond areas. You saw some of those larger areas. I'm getting a little wrapped up here in all this paperwork, but we'll be able to plant more, let's say type 2s here, which aren't going to count the same, and some up in the front. But there will be a in lieu fee payment involved with both, to be determined. Unlike a prior case with a similar request that was full of palms, these sites they were full of palms, but there were oaks trees too, and they trigger a higher mitigation requirement. I think that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And with that, I will close the public hearing.
Legal?
Yes, legal.
I mentioned before you officially close, Simone Savino, Legal Department, on the Causeway Boulevard report, and I just want to bring this to the board's attention.
They're both Causeway Boulevard reports,
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
excuse me, this one is the
east and west.
Tampa Causeway Partners LLC,
Okay,
not the Feeding Tampa.
got it.
There's, on the stormwater report, there's a condition, and I wanted to just bring that to the board's attention because I don't know, and this would be a question for staff and from the board, if that condition would need to be mentioned in any motions that might be made by the Acela program so that it could be complied with. I wanted to just bring that up before everything is closed, so you can have the chance to discuss and address it, how you would like to handle. But my recommendation would be to include it in any motion so that it's not lost sight of.
Okay, and the condition is included in the packet?
Correct, it should be under the stormwater memo.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, we agree. We'll meet the conditions of the stormwater. We've met with staff on stormwater already on both projects.
Okay,
It's just not mentioned on the site plan.
so,
That's why it would be mentioned in a motion or confirmation from city staff that it's going to be complied with.
all right, and either Jane or Simone, how would you like us to word that condition?
So this is a condition that has to be met at the time of permitting. So it could be either of two ways. One of those would be that a condition is added to the record such that at any point in time that they come in for permitting, that would be lit up in the system where they know that there is a condition that has to be met. But if the board so wishes, that can be something that you add in the motion to say that this is approved with conditions that they meet the stormwater requirements at the time of permitting. And I did mention what those requirements were, which is that they would comply with the technical standard and that they would update the flood elevations, and I think they already mentioned that, so that has already been complied with, I think. So it's just the other stuff.
Okay,
Only relief we're requesting is for the request, so we agree.
okay, all right, let's go ahead and officially close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. Who would like to make a motion? And if we need discussion, we can have discussion.
It's supposed to be a legal department, that is correct. So there's 4 variances requested between the 2 properties, and so it would be 4 motions, so I understand that. Or you could separate it into 2 if you wanted, but it's 2 variances for each property.
Okay, so normally we would, if with multiple variances, we could do it under one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so just, yes, by application number. Although the first one is the only one that needs the condition, correct? 57, okay.
All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-57 for their property located at 3622 Causeway Boulevard be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5F4 of the city code for granting tree removal. Specifically, the evidence provided in the record showed that there was no real reasonable reconfiguration due to the FEMA requirements for finished floors, and putting these grand trees down in 8-foot deep tree wells will eventually kill the trees anyways, so there's no sense in trying to force them to stay.
And sorry, before I
put that, is that gonna stay in the trees, or do I have to do a separate one for that?
I think so, because they're 2 separate standards, right? So one, the retention requirement is based upon the 2780, and then the removal of the non-hazardous trees is based upon the 27-284.3.
This one?
Yeah. That's,
Okay. So do we have a complete? Okay. Do we have a second for the motion to approve with conditions?
Second, this one didn't have conditions though, I don't believe.
The next one,
The next
The
one.
next one has conditions. Oh, you were doing,
just the trees.
Just
Okay.
trees.
all right, got it. Gotcha. All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say, do we need discussion? Any discussion? No? All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. try another one.
I also move that the variance request for case VRB 22-57, located at 3622 Causeway Boulevard, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in tree retention requirement from 50% to 0%, with the following conditions. That they follow the memorandum as set forth by Stormwater. That said variance as conditioned to be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing for an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in 27-80 of the city code, specifically that this lot has been sitting vacant for quite some time, originally developed in the 60s and now is holding a large amount of Brazilian pepper, and that the FEMA elevations, again, are going to eventually destroy the grand trees as the property site is developed.
Okay, you have the motion,
Second.
the second, keeping it consistent, I like that. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Any opposed? Aye, all right. Those two motions are approved. Next. You're welcome to, and again, consistency might serve the record well.
All right. We'll start with the trees again. I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-73 for property located at 4000 Causeway Boulevard be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in 27-284.2.5 F4 of the city code for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record showed that the existing grand trees, once affected by the FEMA flood zones for finished floors, will create too deep of tree wells for them to survive in the future.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any need for discussion? No? All right. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Last one.
That's right. This one does not meet the conditions for water, so I mentioned the first one, correct?
Correct.
All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-73 for the property located at 4000 Causeway Boulevard be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the minimum percentage of retained trees from 50% to 0%, based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the site has been developed way back in the 60s. Since then, it's left vacant. There's been a lot of Brazilian pepper and other invasive species on the property. And once we raise the finished floors up to the FEMA standards, the tree wells that these existing trees would be in would be too deep for them to survive. And additionally, they are required to replace, in this one, approximately 300 trees. So they will not be completely removing all trees from the face of the earth.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, your petitions have passed. Have a great evening.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buster. Best of luck.
Jane and Maddie Development Coordination. The next case before the board is VRB 2224. This is addressed at 4917 North Arowana Avenue. The property owner is Yasman Gasita. And the request is to reduce the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet. And this is for an addition to an existing single-family dwelling. The code section in reference is section 27-156, that has the schedule of area, height, bulk, and placement regulations for the RS-50 zoning district as 20 feet for the front, 20 for the rear, and 7 for the sides. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It is an interior lot in the Central Tampa Planning District. And this is, this work was done without permit, so they're coming in as an after the fact. This is a site plan provided that by the applicant showing towards the east, that variance request to reduce the side yard setback from 7 to 3. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found inconsistent. That there is a grand tree that was removed without permits, and right now there are no trees on the site, and they would have to mitigate that at the time of building permits. Right-of-way reviewed and found and had comments that the proposed work is acceptable. However, there is a shed that seems to be within the easement. But staff will want to note that at this point, that is not before the board, as it has nothing to do with the variance request that the applicant has put forward. Right-of-way found them consistent as well. This is floor plan showing what was the existing structure previously, and the new addition is on the right. Applicant provided elevations showing the addition to the existing home. Staff has received no letters of objection or support for this variance request. And in the determination that is before the board shall consider section 27-80 as the criteria for the approval or denial of the variance request. Will be available if you have any questions.
Okay, applicant, come on up, state your name, your address, and confirm for us that you have been sworn, and then you'll have
Yes.
10 minutes to make your presentation.
I'm Carlos Castilla. I'm in 1936 West Martin Luther King, Suite 205. I'm representing the owner of this property.
You have been sworn,
Excuse me?
and you have been sworn. I have been sworn in. You
Oh, I
been
haven't
sworn
sorry. Yes,
Thank you.
please. Sorry.
That's okay.
With the presentation, more than excellent from her. The only thing, objection that I have, the tree was on the neighbor's lot, not in this lot. He never had a tree in the lot. I don't know why they got, somebody sent a comment that they cut the tree, they haven't cut any tree. The neighbor cut it, I have no idea. But you say grand tree on the left side, on the back of the lot, is on the neighbor's lot. I don't know if he's still there, I don't know if he caught it, I have no idea. The rest, the hardship, he already built. It's ATF problem.
Okay, are you going to tell us, explain to us the basis of the hardship and why you, why we should approve the variance that you're requesting?
Because he already built, he already did that because he wanted to bring his family. The house was a small house, now it's a little bigger. So he started to build like most Spanish people without permit.
Yeah, so we're clear. We cannot consider that something has already been built as a hardship. That's not something that we consider. That would be self-created.
Yes.
What we need to understand is why the building needs to be, why the construction needed to go where it went. We can look at it as if it's a fresh request and consider its approval as if it's a fresh request. But the construction, the pre-existing build, the fact that it was done without permits is not something that we can evaluate. So what we need to understand is you're seeking a side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet.
Yes.
You need to understand what the hardship is in putting, in reducing the setbacks so that we can understand that.
Oh, to do the addition, whatever side, let's say, he need increase the house because he's trying to bring the family here. So it's going to be more people, probably, if they let it out of Cuba. So he built the 1, 2 bedrooms more, and he did it on that side because there was a carport. He enclosed the carport too. So that's why he did it on that side. Now they got enough room for the family. And if they do it anywhere around the house, there was impossible to do it because the house was most inside the setbacks. So that's why he just did it without knowing. I know that's no reason to do it.
Okay, so there was an existing carport, it was enclosed. There is
Yes.
some information on the application
Yes.
about hardships. Did you want to talk about those at all?
The carport, he started to increase the house, enclosing the carport, make another room. Then I start to find out probably more people, there was families coming. So he started to build on that side because he already did the carport. He said, oh, I continue on that side without permit. Sorry.
Okay,
Now it's I think his father is already here. Now, I don't know who else, more families supposed to come.
does that complete your presentation this evening? Is there more you want to share with us?
Excuse me?
Is there more you would like to share with us? Anything else
I
you want
think
to tell
that's
us?
it. It's not easy to find or to tell you that one is ATF problem.
Okay. Well, then, if that concludes your presentation, let's open it up for, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak about this application or this petition this evening? All right, seeing none, does anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant this evening?
Just wondering, when was the original home built? Do you have any idea when the original home was built?
I can hear you, sorry.
What year the original home was built?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Like, would you just
But like,
ballpark
no,
it?
like the 50s.
50s would be a
Around,
good guess?
yes.
All right. And how many square feet was the original home?
800 something.
800 something, so very small.
Plus the garage, I think it was. I don't remember exactly. And I forgot to tell you, so, and, when I sent the letters, only one person called me asking what is the letter. So I told them just they changed the setback in Spanish because there was Spanish people all around that.
Okay. And the addition that's requiring the side setback, it already exists, or you want to build it? Have all these changes already been made, or just some of the changes?
It's already made.
All of them are made,
Eight
everything's
years.
already built out? Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? All right, you have some time for rebuttal if there's anything else you want to share with us, if there's anything else you want to talk about in terms of the hardships or the criteria that are before us to consider this evening. You have some time to do that now, or if you want to respond to the questions that were asked.
Just try to respond whatever question you have because
Okay.
it's not easy.
All right. Well then, if that's the case, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. Anyone like to make a motion one way or the other on this one? I feel like you should have a break, but to start discussion?
Yeah, I have a hard time approving this one. I don't like any setbacks that are less than 5 foot around a house. I don't see a clear reason. I'm really trying hard. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, we had an existing carport.
That was already in, but that doesn't, I don't think that applies to the setback that's in question.
No.
That's the issue, I was hoping.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to think of the safety of neighbors, we have to think of the safety of the residents for local police service, the community. Emergency personnel, access, I agree. I don't feel that 3 feet is enough.
Okay, well, would anyone like to make a motion on this, or to move this forward? And we can see how it
I'll do
pans
it.
out.
I'll move that variant request for VRB case 22-24 for the property located at 4917 North Arawana Avenue for a reduced side yard setback from 7 foot to 3 feet to be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in this record and at this public hearing for unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this is a self-created hardship. We can't really figure out any other hardships that would approve this.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to deny with a second. All those in favor of the denial, say aye. Any opposed? All right, your motion, your petition has been denied. You have 14 days to appeal, should you choose to appeal it to the city council. No, 14 days. Yeah. All right, from the written decision. So, thank you. Have a good evening. All right. VRB 2246. Thank you.
The next case before the board is VRB 2246. This is addressed at 2610 West Crest Avenue. The property owners are, or the property owner is Francisco Cardoso. This is zoned RS50. The request is to reduce the side yard setback on the west from 7 feet to 6.8 feet. This east yard side setback from 7 to 1.7, and the rear yard setback from 20 to 3.6. And this is for the purpose of the addition of an existing solid roof porch. Again, this is a work without permits. The code section in reference is section 27-156 that has the setbacks for the RS50 zoning district as 20 feet for the front, 20 feet for the rear, and 7 feet on the side. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It is a corner lot in the central Tampa planning district at the intersection of Crest Avenue and Ron Avenue. On the left side, you have a survey of the property as it exists. And then on the right-hand side, you have a property, a site plan of the property showing the green space, because previously they were not meeting the green space requirement. However, they provided documentation showing that they have removed some of the pavement in order to meet with the green space requirement. This has been reviewed by Natural Resources and they have been found consistent with conditions that they meet the natural resources, City of Tampa Tree and Landscape Technical Manual standards at the time of permitting, and that any changes that they make can be, should ensure that they meet the Chapter 27 City of Tampa Code requirements. Transportation had no comments, and right-of-way had no comments as well, but they did find them consistent. These are the pictures that the applicant has provided showing that addition of the solid roof porch to the existing single-family dwelling. And it is open on all sides. However, because this is a solid roof and it is connected to the principal structure, it has to meet principal structure setbacks. We received no letters of objection or support for this variance request. And everything that we received from the applicant was included in the staff packet, the staff memo that was sent out to the board. In the determination of this variance request, the board shall consider section 27-80 that has the criteria for the approval of a variance request. And if you have any questions, I would be available to answer, or any of the other staff.
Okay. Thank you. Please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn, and then you'll have 10 minutes to explain your hardships and why we can grant what you're asking for based upon the criteria that's in front of us.
Buenas noches. Primero agradecer al board.
Good evening. I want to thank the board.
Mi nombre es Francisco García.
My name is Francisco Garcia.
Mi esposa y yo somos los dueños de la propiedad
My wife and I are the owners of the property
en 2610 West Crest Avenue,
on 2610 West Crest Avenue,
Tampa, Florida 33614.
Tampa, Florida 33614,
Y reafirmo que he jurado.
and I have been sworn in. Muy bien.
Okay,
Sí.
nosotros estamos esta noche para pedir
here
la
tonight
permanencia
To ask
de
for
un
the,
cover de aluminio en la parte trasera del patio.
we are here tonight to request for the state of the patio's roof aluminum
Que no cumple los estándares de los códigos de la ciudad.
that doesn't follow the standards of the city.
Y para esto pedimos que se cambien los setbacks,
And for this, we request to allow us to change the setbacks.
¿Ustedes quieren que repita los setbacks o los
Do you want me to repeat the reductions on the setbacks again?
No, thank you. We have
No,
that
gracias,
information.
tenemos esa
Okay.
información.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
just need the
Lo que
information about.
necesitamos es,
Okay, so hardship es una casa construida en el 1955, es una propiedad vieja.
this is an old property that was built in 1955.
Incluso antes de los códigos actuales de la ciudad.
In fact, even prior to the new codes set by the city,
Y que fue, a nuestro entender, construida no adecuadamente.
and it is understanding that the property itself was not built originally in the right way
Porque está torcido los límites del lote.
because it's torcido is like
crooked.
twisted, crooked.
Yeah. Y se inunda en determinadas áreas como el frente y en el patio trasero.
And there are times when we get flooding on the front and on the backyard.
Es una casa que tiene la propiedad como tal, la vivienda tiene solamente 1,314 pies cuadrados.
The building itself only is only about 1,314 square feet.
Y este nuevo cover permite eliminar todas las inundaciones que pueden ocurrir cuando llueve y que se mantenga húmeda toda esa área. Voy a poner unos pictures.
And I'm going to show you some pictures, but the new cover that we are discussing here today will help eliminate some of the flooding that is currently pouring from the rain, and it would allow the area to be moist. And I have some pictures to show you.
Estas son fotos del frente
These are pictures from the front area,
que se inundan, el acceso de los autos a la propiedad.
and this is how you see the flooring from the front, from the cars that, los carros de la propiedad, ¿cómo?
Sí, la entrada de los autos.
Oh, this is the entry.
The access to the
the
property,
access to
car
the
access to the
of
property.
cars.
And este es el ditch.
This is the ditch area.
Esta es la foto de la parte trasera.
This is the picture
Del-
of the back of the property.
Antes de poner el cover,
Before we put the cover here,
entonces pueden ver que en el techo original que está detrás es muy
as
pequeño.
you see, the original roof is too small.
And then, y en a la izquierda está el acceso al laundry, que es el único acceso que hay fuera de la casa.
On the left side of this picture here is the only access to the laundry room.
Esta es otra foto de la parte trasera.
This is another picture of the back of the property.
Y aquí pueden ver cómo
And
se
you can see
moja y
here
se inundaba antes del cover.
How it was always floating before we
Todo
put the cover.
el suelo dentro del techo y todas las cosas que teníamos ahí.
ground used to get flooded, and all of the things that get flooded in this area.
Este es el laundry,
This is the laundry area.
el único acceso, y todo eso,
This
como
is
pueden
the
ver
only
ahí, se
access to
moja,
the
se
laundry.
mojaba con la lluvia y se inundaba.
As you see, when you rent, we get flooding in this entire area.
Estos son algunos equipos que teníamos en esa área que se han afectado.
We have, as you see on that picture, sorry, perdón, un momentico. We had this type of things in here that will get wet because of the rain and the flooding. Perdón, siga.
Ujú. Y esto, por supuesto, es como ha quedado después de las remodelaciones.
And this is what it looked like after the remodeling.
Esto le brinda además un espacio de un
It's
living
also-
area más grande.
This also allows us for a larger area, living space.
El interior de la casa no permite que haya un living room que para muchas personas es una casa bien pequeña.
Since this is a very small homes, the interior of the property doesn't allow for a lot of space for us to be with a larger groups of family of people in the area.
So, ahora
inside.
podemos compartir afuera más
So
de
now we
varias
can
personas.
share the space, the
Como-
outside space
como
with
dinner,
others.
Como si fuera una cena más grande.
Like if we can have a
A big-
meal with a larger group of people on the outside.
That's it. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, so that concludes your presentation this evening?
¿Se
Yes.
concluye su presentación? Yes.
All right. Let's see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to
Vamos a ver
speak
si
about this
alguien piensa
application.
que quiere hablar sobre alguna cosa. No, nadie en la audiencia.
Seeing none,
Vemos que nadie.
is there anyone on the board who has questions for the applicant?
¿Alguien que tiene alguna pregunta al solicitante?
Have you spoken to the neighbor immediately behind you?
¿Usted ha hablado
Sí,
con el
tenemos
vecino detrás de
las
usted?
mejores relaciones
We have very good
con
relationships
ambos vecinos
with both
y
neighbors.
ninguno se ha quejado.
And nobody has complained.
And the one behind too?
¿Y la persona detrás de usted?
Okay.
Yes.
With the flooding on the back yard
La
previously,
inundación de la parte de
where
atrás.
you've built the new roof, it appears that the water is going to your rear neighbor.
Yes.
Parece que
And
el
then-
agua está yendo al vecino
No.
de atrás.
No, it's a.
Okay, so the water now flows towards the front, is that why you
No,
built the
El
ditch?
agua está yendo hacia el frente o hacia
Al
adelante?
lateral, hacia la calle.
To the side, on the side of the street.
Okay, and so after you built the covered area, you made the ditch in the front to accommodate for the additional water?
Usted hizo acomodaciones para que el agua saliera por ese lado. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
gracias.
Can we put the plan picture back up there, please?
Ella quiere ver el plan, quiere ver que muestren el plan de la señora.
On the picture there, can you please show me where the laundry room is located at?
¿Usted puede mostrarme en el plano dónde es que está el área del laundry room? He just pointed to you. Hágale otra
You
vez.
have to do it on the projector.
You have to do it on the projector.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, perdón. Ya se lo va a poner la señora. Que le muestre dónde está el laundry room.
Can we zoom
Here.
in? Can we zoom into that plat a little bit more? I have my glasses on, but I still need a little bit more.
Que quiere ver mejor la
Okay,
señora.
thank you.
Yeah, it's
Great.
right here.
Okay, thank you.
Ok, gracias.
There was an area that Ms. Madhu said that you remove concrete to make more,
Hay un área donde usted quitó
Green
el
area?
cemento
where's that?
que la señora indicó, la señora que representa la ciudad dijo que usted había quitado cemento y le está preguntando cuál es el área donde él quitó el cemento.
El área es el frente de la casa. En el
On
frente
the
de la
front of the house.
Where?
¿En dónde específicamente? Aquí.
Oh, sorry. It's right here.
Okay, so that was paved previously?
Y
Yes.
esa área estaba pavimentada, sí, yes.
Tenemos un permiso ahora aprobado por la ciudad para un nuevo driveway.
We have a permit that has been approved by the city for a new driveway, actually.
Que cumple todos los requerimientos de las áreas verdes y todo.
That it abides by all of the requirements that the city had stipulated regarding the driveway.
Thank you.
Muy bien, gracias.
Y eso incluye todo el concreto del área trasera también.
And that also covers the part on the back.
The concrete in the back.
Okay, any more questions for the applicant? All right, well, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal to address any of the questions or, sorry? Oh, go ahead, before we close it, go ahead and ask your question.
Close it.
Entre sí, tomar la decisión y el fallo en su caso.
Mr. Garcia?
Están hablando.
Would you be open to a condition that none of this exterior patio that you've added be enclosed?
¿Usted estaría dispuesto a aceptar que como usted tiene este porche que está abierto completamente, si le ponen una condición de que lo deje tal y como es abierto, que usted no va a cerrar este
No, no
porche?
lo voy a cerrar.
No, I don't plan to. I'm not going to enclose it. Muy bien. O sea, que se deje abierto, ¿no? Porque está diciendo una condición.
I just wanted to point out to the board that the site plan included in today's report doesn't make mention of the removed concrete. So if you wanted to have that as something that's a part of your decision-making today, you would need to reference it in your motion. It's not on the site plan.
Since there's a green space requirement, and they're not asking for a variance to that green space requirement, they'd be required to meet that permitting anyway.
They would, but if it's a part of your decision-making today, it might be something you want to include in this approval.
Okay.
Okay, last call for any questions? Seeing none. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal to address anything that we've raised or provide us additional information.
Sí, me gustaría aclarar un poco esto en concreto que
I would like to clarify it, some more about the concrete.
el concreto que se retiró era el concreto existente porque se va a hacer un nuevo driveway que está aprobado. So,
The concrete that we removed, it was the concrete that was existing because we already have the permit to replace the entire driveway. That was part of the concrete that he was referring to.
no lo incluimos en el variance porque no pensamos que debía ser.
We didn't include it in the variance because we didn't think that we should include it.
Pero si quieren, si es una condición que ustedes
But if
puedan
it's a
pedir,
condition,
no tengo ningún problema con
I
eso.
don't have a problem with that.
Y además quiero aclarar que vamos a restaurar también las áreas verdes que están dentro.
And I also wanted to reiterate that we would like to restore the green areas.
Y poner algunos árboles también.
And we'd like to put some trees in there as well.
Small trees. yeah,
Small
in the
trees
front, yeah.
in the front.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude your presentation with your rebuttal? All right, with that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
Entonces quiero que la Junta Directiva haga una moción, una petición de una moción.
I move that variance request for case VRB 2246 located at 2610 West Crest Avenue as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the west side yard from 7 feet to 6.8 feet, the east side yard from 7 feet to 1.7 feet, and the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 3.6 feet with encroachment for eaves and gutters. With the following conditions, that the space never be enclosed and that the property meets the city's green space requirement per their zoning. And that said variance as condition be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of a necessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that this house was built in 1955. It was originally built into the setback and crookedly on the property, and thus has never complied. The addition is in line with the same line of the house that exists today, continuing that crooked line in the setback. There's flooding in the rear yard as shown through photographs, and that there is agreement from all 3 directly impacted neighbors for this addition.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, motion to approve with conditions. The language in that approval with conditions is a little.
It says that said
clunky.
variance as condition be granted, but it says it after you would expect him to say
It's a little
that.
clunky. All right, motion to approve and a second. All those in favor of approval, say aye. Those opposed? All right, your motion, your petition passes. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Amadu, Development Coordination. The next case before the board is VRB 2258. This is addressed at 8715 North 46th Street. And it is zoned RS50. The request is to reduce the south side yard setback from 7 feet to 5.8 feet. And this is for an existing single-family dwelling. The code section in reference is section 27-156 that has the setbacks for the RS50 zoning district as 20 feet in the front, 20 in the rear, and 7 on the sides. This is an aerial showing that subject property. It is an interior lot in the USF institutional planning district. This is a survey showing the subject property and the adjoining lot. This was not included in the staff packet, but this was part of a previous BLD, a building permit. So this was previously 2 lots that was split into 2, and the splitting of those lots made the existing building non-conforming. There is a formal decision on this property for lot split, which is a lot reconfiguration, that was approved with the following condition. Before parcels A and B can be created, the existing improvement on proposed parcel A will need to either be demolished or receive a variance to reduce the required 7-foot setback by approximately 1.2 feet to allow for a 5.8-foot setback. And so the approval of this formal decision is contingent on the approval of the variance. They do have the existing garage on the adjoining lot has been demoed. This is the subject property and the existing single-family dwelling. And on the south side, it shows what that setback is. It's 6.3 on the east end, and on the west end, southwest end, it is 5.8. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions that they meet the City of Tampa tree and landscape technical standard at the time of permitting. It was also reviewed by right-of-way and found consistent. Transportation review was not required at this time. We received no letters of support or objection for the variance request before the board. The applicant has provided pictures showing that existing home and the existing conditions on the site at present. In the determination of the variance request before the board shall consider section 27-80 that has the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. If you have any questions, staff will be available to answer.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, come on up, state your name, your address, confirm for us that you have been sworn, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Yes, my name is Jorge Lopez, and I've been sworn, and I live at that address, 8715 North 46th Street in Tampa. And the reason I'm here is because I've applied to split the lots and was approved with the condition that I will come in front of you guys to have that reduced setback from the 7-foot to the 5.8. And the reason that is like that, this house was built in 51 and was already built crooked inside the setbacks at today's standards. I don't know about those days if they had that setback in place as a requirement, but to comply today is inside the setback.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to share with us this evening?
No.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak about this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone on the board who has a question for the petitioner or staff? Seeing none. Well, you have some time for rebuttal if you choose to use it.
No.
No rebuttal
Thank
needed?
you.
Okay. Do we have, with that, I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion. I also wanted to say that it's nice to see that the city is requiring the variance to do the lot split, because we have been asking for that for many, many years. So that's nice. So I'll move that variance request for case VRB 2258 for property located at 8715 North 46th Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for reduction in the south side yard setback from 7 feet to 5.8 feet with encroachment for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty in considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that this house was built in 1951. The owner would like to split the property, which has been approved dependent on this variance, and that the reduced setback is still a reasonable 5.8 feet from the lot line as opposed to much closer, which seems to be a reasonable request.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, your petition passes.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
The next case before the board is VRB 2261. This is addressed at 4308 West Virginia Avenue. This is zoned RM16 residential multifamily, and the property owners are Roku and Rufina Maldonado. And the variance request before the board is to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet to 16 feet and 7 inches, and the side yard setback from 7 to 5. And this is for additions to an existing single-family semi-detached residence. The code section in reference is section 27-156 that has the setback requirements for the RM16 zoning district as 25 feet in the front, 15 on the rear, and 7 on the corner and the sides. This is an aerial photograph showing that subject property. It is a corner lot in the West Shore TIA planning district. It is at the intersection of West Virginia Avenue and North Coolidge Avenue. This is also a work without permit, so this is an after the fact application. And this is a site plan showing the existing home. What you have here in the hatch is the addition, and also on the side here you have that addition. Now, staff would want to comment that even though this is addressed to West Virginia, we recognize North Coolidge as the front of the property. So the request here is to reduce that front yard setback by the addition of this porch, and then to reduce the side yard setback on this corner with the addition of that pavement and cover. This shows in greater detail what those additions are, and the request here on the south side is to reduce that from 7 feet to 5, and on the front is to reduce that to 16 feet and 7 inches. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions that the trees along the property line look to be in poor condition, and they recommend that they be removed along with the building permit at the time of construction. Transportation had no comments and found them consistent. Right-of-way as well had no comments and found them consistent. We received no letters of objection or support for this variance request. And these are the pictures that the applicant provided showing the existing conditions. So this is that front end showing the addition in the front, and this is showing the addition in the rear. In the determination of the variance request before the board, you shall consider section 27-80 that has the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. If you have any questions, I will be available on hand to answer.
I have a question before you go.
Sure.
The plan with the green dotted line, could you show that one?
Yes.
So I assume that's the setbacks, right, the buildable area?
Right, but at the time, whoever prepared, the engineer or the architect that prepared that did not have the right setback. So they have the front oriented as Virginia because that's where the property is addressed to. But for us in zoning, we look at not Coolidge as the
Coolidge.
front. So they are showing those setbacks as
Okay.
if Virginia was the front.
Got it.
Okay. Applicant, come on up, state your name, your address, confirm for us that you have been sworn, and then you'll have 10 minutes to make a presentation.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Milady Guevara.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Milady Guevara.
Y estoy representando a al señor Rocky y a la señora Rufina Maldonado.
And I am the agent and representing Rocky and Rufina Maldonado.
La dirección es 4308 West Virginia en Avenue, Tampa, Florida, en el 33614.
The address is 4308 West Virginia Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33614.
En nombre de ellos les pido las disculpas por todos estos cambios que ha habido en la propiedad.
And in representing them, I apologize for all the changes that have been done to the property. Y diga que usted ha sido juramentada.
Y he sido juramentada.
And I have been sworn in.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, you have 10 minutes.
Tienen 10 minutos.
Ok, la parte de atrás de la casa, de la propiedad, donde hay una adición,
The view of the back of the house,
era un baño donde había una secadora y una lavadora.
there was a bathroom where there was a dryer, a washer and a dryer.
Esa pared se dañó y ellos la sustituyeron y no miraron bien los setbacks de la propiedad.
They removed that wall that was there because it was damaged, and in removing that, they didn't realize the setback.
Y el porche era existente,
The porch was an existing porch,
pero estaba bastante deteriorado y ellos lo remodelaron todo
the porch
completo.
was so deteriorated that they remodeled the porch.
Y estamos aquí a ver si nos pueden aceptar el variante.
So we're here and see if you will approve the variance petition.
Okay,
Muy bien.
I'm sorry, did you have more to tell us, or are you finished?
No.
Eso es todo. No,
Eso es todo.
that's it.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition?
¿Hay alguien más que quiera hablar?
Seeing none, are there any questions from the board? I'll start.
Bueno, yo voy a hablar.
So looking at the picture, can you put do you have any of the pictures up? Can you put one of those things up for us, please? There you go. I'm sorry, actually, the site plan. Can we go back to that one? That was my fault. There you go. Can you point to what was an existing porch that was then remodeled?
Ay,
Sí,
¿cómo lo-
tiene que acá ¿Puede usted marcar con su dedo el lugar del porche que fue remodelado? Un momentito, para cambiar la S para acá.
So, yeah, we can just switch that. Try that again. If you would point to the existing porch, what was existing and then remodeled?
¿Cuál fue que existía y lo remodelaron?
Okay. When
Here.
that existed previously, was it about the same shape and size? Did they just rebuild what was already there?
El porche que ustedes remodelaron era anteriormente de misma forma y del mismo tamaño en la misma área.
No, lo hicimos un poquito se hizo un poquito más abierto. Por eso violaron los setbacks.
Pero en el mismo lugar.
Sí, sí, en el mismo
In the
lugar.
same place, but we made it a little bigger.
Okay. And how much bigger?
¿Y
Do
qué
you know?
tan grande más del que existía ahora el existe? ¿Qué tan grande?
Son como 4 pies.
I think
Y de 25
Like 4
a
feet.
16 es más grande.
de 25 a 16. And from 25 to 16.
Yeah, okay. So it met the setbacks, they just went a little bit
Pero sí, estaba en
closer.
el-
But
salió fuera del área limitada, yes.
it is unusual because
Es inusual.
what you consider the front of the
Lo que
property,
ustedes consideran
right,
el frente de la
is
propiedad es
West Virginia Avenue, is that correct?
West Virginia Avenue, ¿correcto? Lo que ustedes
Sí.
consideran. Yes.
Okay. And you have how much space between the
¿Cuál es el espacio
existing
entre
building
el
and
edificio que
the
existe
actual street?
y la calle? ¿Qué tanto espacio hay desde la
De
calle
a la
al
calle.
edificio?
Es que hay también
Yeah.
los setbacks de la ciudad. No
Well,
sé
there is
bien.
some setbacks for
De
the
the
city,
city,
so
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. Tell me a little bit about the bathroom wall in the back. It was, you said there was an existing washer and dryer, was that outside?
Había
Sí,
una máquina y estaba
esa
afuera.
era es un baño.
It is a
existente.
bathroom.
Right.
Es un baño. Y en el baño es el toilet, el lavamanos y el laundry.
It is the toilet and the hand area, plus the washer and the dryer
Right.
in the bathroom.
en el
Okay.
baño.
And so
The vanity, sorry, I said and, but it's the vanity, yeah.
the wall in the back was damaged.
Entonces,
How?
la
Explain
parte-
that,
la
if you
pared
would.
estaba dañada, ¿cómo así? ¿Podría?
Sí, todas las tuberitos, entonces ellos lo cambiaron.
Yes,
pusieron
the
el-
wall was rotten, so they have to take it all off, and then they remove the plumbing.
Sí, quitaron el laundry de ahí.
So they took out the laundry from that area as well.
Okay, and where, what came in there? They just expanded the bathroom?
Entonces, ¿qué hicieron después de, en ese mismo lugar que
Ya-
colocaron el
no,
baño?
no, el baño está ahí y está como un espacio más grande el baño.
It's just the bathroom, and it's just an open, bigger space in the same bathroom.
Okay. Where did the laundry go?
¿Y dónde se llevaron la
Ahí,
máquina
ahí
esa?
está la foto.
There is
Lo
the
tenemos
picture.
ahí puesto afuera, la lavadora, están haciendo laundry en
They
otro
are-
lugar.
They are doing the laundry on the outside area.
Okay. Oh, that's what the,
En la foto
part of the
se ve.
addition was for?
You can see it in the picture.
Okay.
She said.
All right,
Muy bien.
that's all the questions I have. Does anyone
Esas
else
son
have any
las preguntas que
questions?
yo tengo. ¿Alguien más tiene alguna otra pregunta?
No?
No. Entonces,
All right.
bueno,
Well, do you have anything else you wanted to say, respond to us? You have 5 minutes for rebuttal, if you want to use
tiene
it.
5 minutos si quiere
No.
refutar algo. No.
Gracias.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, well, then I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
Y voy a pedir que alguien de la Junta entregue una moción sobre este caso.
All right.
Muy bien.
I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-61 for property located at 4308 West Virginia Ave be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction of front yard setback from 25 feet to 16 feet 7 inches and a side yard setback from 7 feet to 5 feet, based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in 27-80 of the city code, specifically that this is a corner lot that had a front along North Coolidge Avenue, yet the address and driveway and everything that would make you think the front of the home is West Virginia. Additionally, the lot is an irregular shape. It's a parallelogram and not a square, which creates additional side or, yes, they're side setbacks now, not rear setbacks. And the existing porch on the Coolidge side of the property was in complete disrepair and was replaced in almost the exact same location.
Se ve que también se ha hecho ese tipo de cambios en otras propiedades que están en un rincón.
I'll second.
Entonces, pido que se le otorgue.
All those in favor say aye.
Los que están en favor, todos en favor, a que le aprueben.
Passes. Have a great evening.
Have a good day, thank you.
All right, this is the last one for the night. The next case before the board is VRB 2266. This is addressed at 4511 West Beachway Drive. The property owners are Frederick and Bethany Neal. This is zoned RS 75. And the variance request before the board is to reduce the west side setback from 5 feet to 3 feet for a pool enclosure. And the code section in reference is section 27-290.5 that has the setback for pool enclosures as 5 feet on all sides and 5 feet on the rear. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It is an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. And this is a survey showing the existing conditions on the site, showing the building. The pool is already existing. And this is a site plan that the applicant has provided showing in the grayed out area the addition of that pool enclosure. And on the west side, we see that what the variance request is for, to reduce that from 5 feet to 3 feet from the property line. This was reviewed by, we have the structural drawings for that pool enclosure that have been prepared by a professional. This was reviewed by Natural Resources and found consistent with conditions. And the comment that per the SCPA Aberus report, zoning Natural Resources finds the submitted request consistent with conditions. At the time of construction, additional natural resource changes and requests can be made to ensure all other applicable sections of Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa Code and the City of Tampa Tree and Landscape Technical Manual are met. This was also reviewed by Right Away, and they had a comment that the applicant provided dimension site plan showing the requested setback reductions, which the applicant did, and transportation had no comments. We received no letters of objection or support for this variance request. And in the determination of this variance request, the board shall consider section 27-80 that has the criteria for the approval or denial of a variance request. I will be available if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. All right, applicant, come on up, state your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, and you'll have 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Good evening. I'm Fred Neal at 4511 West Beachway Drive, and I have been sworn in. We purchased our property in 2015, and it had a pool existing on it, and the pool needed renovation because the pool spa, which that was leaking, and the skimmer on the west side long aspect of the pool was incorrectly installed. Sort of, let's see, how do I zoom? Oh, very fancy. Okay, so the west side skimmer was about here, also leaking and not installed properly from time immemorial. So we contracted with a company to refinish the pool area, and in the process we realized that we can't fix the spa without adding new concrete. And the spa is actually 30 inches from the property line. And to fix the skimmer is at 58 inches from the property line, so putting concrete would be required around that as well. So to get permits, we'd be in violation of the setback requirement. We worked with the pool company quite a bit to figure out a plan that would work, and the pool company suggested that we ask for a variance to get us 3 feet, 36 inches, which would allow us to reconfigure the skimmer for the spa and also pour some concrete for the skimmer. But in addition, it would allow us to put in a concrete footer for a planned pool enclosure, sort of all in one fell swoop. And so that's what we're dealing with in terms of like structural problems. We also have, obviously we are across the street from the drainage canal on West Shore, on the south side, and the mosquitoes are ferocious. They don't bother me, but they really bother my 9-year-old and my wife. So we need to try to address that. We've been using Mosquito Joe spraying every month for the last 5 years, and it hasn't done anything. They seem to eat the stuff they spray. They seem to enjoy it. And also, you'll notice that this is a fairly long distance. We briefly considered getting rid of that skimmer on the side of the pool entirely, but we still wanted to put the screen up. And so the option might be to put the screen along the beam of the pool here. But that would eliminate the screen around the spa, and it would also leave a very long distance where the screen would be directly on the beam, which for younger swimmers is maybe not the best. So given those sort of three things, I think we have a fairly decent hardship, I think. And so the plan is here, where we get, we get 6 feet from the rear of the property and 3 feet from the west side. You guys got any questions?
Well, we can't ask questions just yet.
Okay.
Under our procedure. Does that complete your presentation?
I believe so.
All right, let's see if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition. Anyone? Seeing none? All right, now we can ask questions. Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner?
I have one. This variance is specifically for the screen enclosure. Could you please explain why you can't have it 5 foot away?
If we
It's
put
like
the
2 feet before it like meets code.
right, the problem is if we put it 5 feet away, then the screen ends up directly on the beam of the pool. Additionally, the pool mechanical stuff can't actually be correctly installed either. And we also can't fix the leak there because putting new concrete in to fix the leak violates the setback already. So it's really two separate problems, but they're both solved by the same setback request.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a vacant lot next to you?
It's not vacant anymore. It was as of a year ago. The house is now, well, they're doing the paint now, so they're fairly far along.
Okay. And have you spoken to your neighbors? Do you have any, did they provide any comments or
Madison
objections?
Homes is constructing the place next door. We have not been in direct contact with Madison, but we haven't heard anything about it. The owner has not spoken to us either.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
The microphone picks up for me. Simone Savino, Legal Department.
I just want to confirm that the site plan submitted shows the distance requested under the variance. Is that correct? It says, it shows 3 feet? And I just wanted to make sure that that's included in the site plan. So, okay.
3
So-
feet.
Okay, got it. Just making sure?
Yeah, I don't know if that's actual to scale,
Yeah, it does.
but it does state that. All right. Any other questions? No? You have 5 minutes for rebuttal or to respond to anything that has been said.
I think we're good.
Okay. Then I will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board. Anyone want to make a motion?
I move that variance request case for VRB 2266 for the property located at 4511 West Beachway Drive for a reduction of the west side setback from 5 to 3 feet with be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof, to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record, and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically that this is a self-created hardship where pool enclosures are not a right, and it seems like this pool is old enough with enough problems that you might consider other alternatives to make the setback work.
All right, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion to deny and a second. All those in favor of the denial, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. All right, the motion to deny has failed, 2-3. Is there another motion?
I move that the variance request for VRB 22-66 for property located at 4511 West Beachway Drive be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in west side setback from 5 feet to 3 feet. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when it's considered the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this was an existing condition for an existing pool, and to create a enclosure that encompasses the pool and the jacuzzi, it would have to be at this 3-foot mark. Additionally, the mosquitoes in the area are horrible, and to have quality of life and enjoyment of his backyard, he would need this screen enclosure.
Can I add that also that the need to fix the concrete would create the hardship anyway?
I would also like to add that the need to repair the existing pool and the concrete necessary for that repair would also require the reduction from 5 feet to 3 feet.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, your motion your petition is approved, 3-2. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
And that concludes our hearing for this evening. Have a great night.